it, folks. All-Star break is over, and real action is about to begin. You gentlemen ready?
Let's make it happen.
All right, the Warriors push begins now. We're going to talk about it on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. He's Dieter Kurtenbach. That other gentleman is Connor Letourneau. It's our first threesome since Dieter and I took over. You can follow Dieter on Twitter at Dieter. You can follow Connor on Twitter. Don't hide yourself. There was no sexual connotation there, innuendo. Connor Letourneau is on Twitter, you filthy mind, at con_cron. You can follow me on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Gentlemen, it's been a nice week off. The Warriors are back in action tonight against the Trailblazers. Your thoughts? Is this when they really ramp it up, or are they going to still take it easy for a little while longer?
Connor?
They obviously want to get back on track, but a lot of it just depends on the health, right? I mean, Draymond's still out. They don't have a timeline for his return. As I know you guys heard, he came out during the All-Star game and said that he's looking at 3 to 4 weeks, which to me was a little concerning because he had said on February 3rd, 3 to 4 weeks. And, 3 weeks later, he's saying 3 to 4 weeks still. So to me, everything over this final stretch hinges on the health of Draymond and Andre. For them to be bona fide, legitimate contenders, I think they need those guys not only available, but at or near their best. And so I'm not too concerned with their record over these final 23 games. I'm more concerned about, are they healthy, and are they the Draymond and Andre that we know?
Yeah, Dieter, what do you think, man?
There is a trickiness with all of this because obviously the Warriors have an opportunity, as small as it might be, Connor, to take the top seed in the Western Conference. I know about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, it's hard to remember. These weeks all run together. Steve Kerr said, yeah, that's out of the picture, but crazy stuff has happened. And then Chris Paul breaks his thumb. I think that qualifies as crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. I know that the Warriors aren't thinking about it that way. They can't look at 6.5 as like a legitimate margin. But this is also a time where losers of 4 or 5 going into the All-Star game haven't really had the same oomph that they started the season with. I know Draymond's not there, but they've won without Draymond, going 9 straight. Like, it feels like an opportunity here out of the gate for them to really start racking up some more wins and maybe make something out of this 1 seed conversation. What are you hearing from the Warriors on the road, as you're in Portland right now? What are you hearing from them as it pertains to getting off to a good start? Is it the general lip service, or are you feeling something a little heavier?
I honestly don't think they're that concerned with the number 1 seed. You bring up an interesting point. I do think the Chris Paul injury made it at least a possibility, opened the door a crack at least. But it's not something that they're really thinking about because this is a team that has the utmost confidence in their abilities when they're fully healthy. And I think that they believe that regardless of whether they're the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed or even maybe the number 3 seed, that if they have Draymond and Andre and everyone fully healthy, they should be the team to beat. And it doesn't really matter if they have to go on the road in the Western Conference Finals. They should be able to win a best-of-7 series against the Suns, even at full strength. And so I personally don't think the seeding matters that much. A lot of people have talked about matchups and things, but the fact that you have the play-in tournament kind of muddles that conversation a bit. Yeah. You don't even know exactly who you'd be facing if you're the 1 or 2 seed, because there's going to be that play-in tournament. So yeah, I would prefer, of the teams in that conversation, I would prefer for the Warriors not to have to face the Lakers in the first round. I know the Lakers have been kind of a mess, but I think that they would give them a little bit of a push. And
yes,
I'd prefer of those teams to not have to face the Lakers, but you don't even know how that's all going to shake out. So
if the Lakers will be there, I mean,
for me, the big thing is I honestly think the Grizzlies could catch the Warriors. I think it's more likely that the Grizzlies catch the Warriors than the Warriors catch. Far more likely that the Grizzlies catch the Warriors than the Warriors catch the Suns. The Grizzlies, to me, are for real. I actually think they're as concerning, if not more concerning, in some ways for the Warriors than the Suns. And Dieter, I believe you're kind of a fan of them as well in terms of what they could bring in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like their steez, man. I mean, I think that they're young. They understand the style of basketball they play. I think Bane is an underrated player. I think they just have a lot of dudes who, I don't know, they're very San Antonio-y from their heyday. They can just be a pain in the ass. And John Morant is a guy that you just straight up can't check. So I'm with you 100% that all the more reason to make a push for the 1 seed. Aim for the stars. You might, whatever. Aim for the moon. You might fall on the stars. But like, you have to win games. Otherwise, Memphis is going to get you. I'm with you on, I'm not concerned about the difference between 2 or 3. Like, oh no, an extra game in Memphis. Oh no, we have to start a game in Memphis. But the reason for the 1 seed and why it would be, I think, worth the effort, which it doesn't sound like they're going to give. And I can't argue with that logic because health is the most important thing. But the reason I would be for it is you're going to have to face both the Suns and the Grizzlies in all likelihood if you're the 2 or the 3 seed. And having them take care of one of them, having them get into a knife fight before everything starts, that sounds like an ideal circumstance. It's probably out of the cards, but if, again, the Warriors make a push here, if they come out guns blazing saying, hey, we're bringing intensity, we're bringing focus, we're bringing all the good stuff from the gate, we're not going to ease into this. We're going to start racking up some wins early, and then we can find out just, if Phoenix has fallen off a little bit or if it's completely unrealistic or whatever. But let's come out hard, evaluate in 2 weeks. I guess they're reevaluating a lot of stuff in a matter of weeks, but evaluate in 2 weeks, and then we can figure out how we want to attack the rest of this thing. I think that there might be some validity to that. But ultimately, I mean, we're talking these big picture things. They're in a kind of a day-to-day mindset. And day-to-day, what is the latest with Andre Iguodala? I know he's not going to play in Portland on Thursday night. I agree with you 100%. He's a vital part of this team moving forward, if for no other reason than to give them some backup point guard minutes and be the adult on the floor, as Steve Kerr so often called him. What's the latest with Andre? What's going on there? Because it seems as if every time he gets close, it just kind of keeps getting pushed out.
He's on this trip, which is a really positive sign. He participated in shoot around. I believe he participated in practice yesterday. It seems like he's on a similar trajectory as Wiseman right now. They're both participating in scrimmages. They're going through things. They both don't have a timeline on their returns. But I expect him to come back soon. The Warriors are notoriously cautious with him for good reason, because he's well past his prime, because they want him to be at his best come the playoffs. I do think it was a real concern that he missed so much time, and then he comes back in his first game back, tweaks his back.
Yeah, that was old man stuff, man. Yeah, that was old man stuff.
That's really concerning, and because of that, I think they're going to be extra cautious. But I think that if you can have him come back with 3 to 4 weeks left in the regular season and he's looking good, you're going to feel good about what he can provide you, because they need him to be a legitimate rotation guy in the playoffs for the same reason that you just alluded to, Dieter, which is just being a stabilizing force out there. He doesn't need to score a lot. He just needs to guard, good wings and get them in their sets and mentor the young guys on the floor. And, I think he has a good chance of doing that.
Yeah, I wanted to add real quick. My sources from the All-Star game have told me that Draymond was going around telling everyone he feels 100%, and that the whole reason why the 3 to 4 weeks timetable remains is because, unlike most other injuries, with a back injury, you can't do anything. Like if you have a hand injury, you can still work out your legs and run. If you have a leg injury, you can still work out your upper body. With a back injury like that, you're just kaput. Outside of exercises in the water, maybe there isn't much you could do. And so it's a question of conditioning for him. I got asked this question, by the way, when I was on Locked On NBA, this roundtable edition we did earlier this week. Who is the preferable opponent that you folks think the Warriors would be looking forward to the most in the first round? Because we talked about the Lakers. I don't want to see them either. But who is the ideal one? It doesn't really seem like, outside of New Orleans or Sacramento, who are doubtful for making it out of the play-in, although they could. You never know. But who's realistically the opponent you want the Warriors to see in the first round?
I don't have a strong opinion, honestly. I mean, no one really scares me.
Dieter does.
Minnesota. Give me the Timberwolves.
Yeah, that's what I said too. That's what I said.
Yeah.
But
Andrew Wiggins will drop 45 a night.
From a reporting perspective, I would love that, because there's just so many storylines and narratives there. You can write about, the Anthony Edwards Wiseman stuff. You can write about the D'Angelo Russell Wiggins trade, the fact that Kuminga, they They got Kuminga from Minnesota, basically. There's just so many like storylines there from a beat writing perspective that I love.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm the Warriors, I probably feel the same way. And Cyrus, I wanted to build off. You mentioned that Draymond thing, and I want to build off that real quick because that's actually important because there's no one on the team who gets out of shape faster than Draymond.
He's got that Kurtenbach.
There's also no one on the team that gets back into shape faster.
That's true.
Than Draymond. My knowledge and understanding of him that aligns with what you're hearing. He's going to need a couple weeks, you can't tell him wearing a suit, like if he's gained a lot of weight or anything, but I'm sure he's gotten out of shape and, they need him back because he was looking so good. Even
he was.
The Olympics just did a wonder for him because he came in great shape, and it was a huge part of why they were able to get off to that just incredible statement-making start. And this team is there's been a couple of built-in excuses for this team, and I would like to once again acknowledge they have the second best record in the NBA, and
don't forget that.
They're fine. They're fine. But anytime they've slumped, it's been very easy to point to certain things, like the last 4 or 5, losing 4 or 5. Well, they were tired. They needed the All-Star break. You saw how Looney was playing. You saw how Wiggins was playing. They were tired. There were other things. I mean, there was a roster breakdown issue, but like how much of that is just dudes be tired? When they were kind of slumping around Christmas, it was, well, they're just looking forward to Christmas. They're looking forward to when Clay's coming back, and everything was A-okay. Clay comes back, Draymond goes out, they win 9 straight games. It just feels as if the natural ebb and flow of this season is to be sustained, they need to really get going here, starting in Portland, get some wins on the board. And doing that without Draymond, I think, would quell a lot of fears because I don't know about you, Connor, but I mean, the way that they were getting their ass kicked inside, I understand that Kevon Looney has been outstanding for this season. I'll be the first person to praise him for his play.
And you've always been a Kevon Looney. I got to give you some props. Like you were on the Kevon Looney train before anyone else was on the Kevon Looney
I'm sorry
train.
that I enjoy solid quality professional basketball
players. I remember you coming up to me like early in his career and being like, because I had written a couple things where I clearly wasn't very high on Kevon at the time, I'll admit. And you like came up to me and gave me a hard time. You're like, he's going to be a good player. And I was like, I don't think so. Shows that you know more about basketball than me. So I'll give you I'll give you your props.
I appreciate
that.
I can't write.
We got to pay some bills. We got to pay some bills. Let's leave on that note for the moment. We'll come back with a lot more. First, let's talk about a sponsor that's been very long time, and I think we all love him, even though Connor repeatedly no, maybe that's Kevin Dana. Connor, are you allowed to bet as a member of the media? As a reporter?
No.
Okay, there you go. So you can't. There you go. So the ethics comes in, but football might be over for the season. Basketball, however, is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. And from all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, that's an interesting one. BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. Before I continue on, by the way, Dieter, can you get the line for tonight's game? We might as well throw it in during this read. Thanks, sir. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. And speaking of all those beautiful lines that people can bet on, if you go to betonline.net, what is the line for tonight's Warriors Trailblazers game?
That would be Golden State by 10.
Damn, see, I can't touch that.
Wouldn't touch it.
No. Is the OU listed there, or is that any better? Jeez, man.
226.5.
Jeez, I'm staying away. Well, maybe you folks don't have to.
I don't mind. I don't mind. I legitimately don't mind Portland at plus 400 on the money line. Just throwing that out there.
Fair enough. Bet online where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. He's Dieter Kurtenbach. Follow him on Twitter at Dieter. He's Connor Letourneau. Follow him on Twitter at Con_Cron, CON_CHRON, and follow me at Dog Surf Roadshow. Dieter, let's just cover this topic. James Wiseman, man. A couple weeks back, we were very loosely conversing about Wiseman when he's going to come back, and you threw out March 1st. People ran with it, and you're going to be looking amazing because
I saw. By the way, credit to you for being the one cited. Anytime that you can cite somebody citing somebody, you got to do it. I mean, that's just good journalism right there.
Heavy.com, is that what you're referring to? Yeah. I saw one that said
bastions of the Pulitzer Prize
of journalistic integrity. Yeah. So, but look, it's looking good. There was a video today, Connor. You're in Portland right now. You too, man. Let's talk Wiseman. It's looking close. Here's what I'll start with real quick. When you look at all the championship teams that the Warriors accomplished, the three primarily from 15 to 20, they only had really one legitimate 7-foot, super tall type center on each of those rosters, and they did fine with that. And I'm guessing that's the attitude for this current roster now. What are you thinking? Is Wiseman going to come back soon? Connor, obviously your expertise especially plays in. Dieter, you got the connections. Shoot away, please.
I'll start. Nothing's changed on my end, except now more than 6 or 7 people know, I guess. I don't know. What a hot mess that nonsense was. Yeah, listen, let's clarify what was said between Cyrus and myself. The date, the target date that the person I'm talking to said, hey, keep an eye out for this one. It's March 1st. Right now, like, I don't know if that means he's going to be in a game. I don't know if that means he's clear for everything, but they're just saying March 1. Like, it's kind of this big, grand, vague day. And
which, by the way, Peter, is the start of a 4-game road trip.
Yes, absolutely. And he's on this road trip right now. That's a good sign. I mean, does he play against Minnesota? I don't know. No one knows. I don't think anyone knew when they were talking about it. They were just saying, keep an eye out. I go, hey, when's Wiseman coming back? And they're like, March 1. I go, okay, that's good enough for me. I don't know. So, Connor, I throw it to you, man. I mean, you've seen him now for 2 days in a row. I know it's just practice. I know it's just scrimmage, but that's about as good as you're going to do at this juncture inside an NBA season. How's the big fella look?
He looks good. He looks very healthy. I think he's gained even more muscle, which is saying a lot. Gained a lot of muscle entering the season. He looks even stronger. He's a guy who doesn't rest on his laurels. I think he's made the most of his time off in terms of being in the gym when he can be and working out and getting in shape. So, he's running the floor well. He's looking like that freak athlete that compelled the Warriors to take him number 2 overall in the draft above a guy named LaMelo Ball.
Has he done anything yet? Is he?
I think I saw him maybe in the All-Star game on Sunday, but
that's
crazy, right? Oh,
But Andrew Wiggins was there, so it's all moot.
Yeah. But no, he's definitely close. I mean, the general rule is that when you're coming back from an injury like this, you want a guy to have at least 2 or 3 5-on-5 scrimmages under his belt. He already has that. He's already had, I believe, 2. Yes. And he's looked good. And so it could happen any day at this point. And I think that it wouldn't even shock me if he played Sunday. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me.
Oh, no, it would, because again, I was told March 1, and that would be before March 1, Connor. There's no way that could happen.
It's technically possible, is all I'm saying. But I think that there's real optimism within the organization that he will return on that road trip, which is why I pointed out that March 1 is the beginning of a 4-game road trip. Very well could be the Minnesota game, could be one of those 3 games after that. But I would expect it to happen on that road trip. It just feels like it's going to happen. And also keep in mind, the practice schedule matters when you're talking about something like this.
Yes.
And they have a practice on Saturday. We'll have a full contact practice. So he'll get another scrimmage in Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, legitimately Sunday, given the 3 5-on-5s full contacts, I mean, they might be extra cautious. I'll touch base with my peeps, but like legitimately, like Sunday does make a lot of sense when you just look at how everyone else has ever been treated in the
Wouldn't
history
you
of the
prefer
NBA.
for it to be at home too? I mean,
Yeah.
not only because it's in front of the home crowd, but because you don't have to get on a plane and deal with that whole rigmarole. Like,
Yeah.
I think,
And
I don't know.
and I don't know if this matters or not, but Sunday you're playing the Mavericks. I don't even know who their starting center is right now. Whereas Tuesday they're playing Minnesota. I'm very familiar with their center, so you might want to ease Wiseman in against opposition that.
The lack of respect for Dwight Powell is just astounding.
Thank
That
you.
dude,
Well, the unicorn's
that
gone.
dude wrecks the Warriors every single time. Me and
That's
Bob
true.
Fitzgerald
That's
agree on
true.
one thing. It's that Dwight Powell
sobered
is
me.
probably the greatest player in the history of the NBA in one metropolitan area.
Yeah,
Full
that's
stop.
true, man.
Cyrus hit on something though, which I think is true, which is that the bulk of his minutes the regular season should and will come against lesser competition.
Yes.
They need to get him as many low stakes minutes as humanly possible, because I don't think that he is ready for high pressure situations in any
No, heck no.
word, which is why there is literally no chance outside of garbage time of him playing in the playoffs. That is not happening.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, everyone's like, oh, he'll be part of the rotation. Yeah, for the next couple of weeks. And then playoff time comes around, and it's 20 minutes of Kevon Looney and 28 minutes of Draymond Green at center every night. And that's kind of where I want to go
maybe
next.
a little bit of Kuminga at the 5. I think we could see that.
But gentlemen, you guys are speaking in such absolutes. I mean, there is a possibility. Like, let's say Wiseman comes in and just blows the roof off. Like, I mean, you could see him even 10, 15 minutes in a playoff game, depending on the matchups, right? You're just really certain it's just
there's
not
no world where he blows the roof off. This is a guy who I hate to be harsh, but he did not know what he was doing last season. Like,
he literally kept tripping over himself. Like, literally, I saw it multiple times.
I mean, the plus minus was awful. They were significantly better with him off the floor.
I don't like
let me give a little defense here of James Wiseman, because I'll back you up on this one, Cyrus. He started playing better last season when the parameters became tighter around him, when the Warriors started to figure out that maybe just letting James Wiseman go out there and do whatever he wanted for the first 30-something games of the season wasn't the best plan for the team or for James Wiseman. And Steve Kerr, I would say, with about 30 games to go, and I believe Draymond was out during this stretch, but they kind of, or maybe Draymond had just come back. You got to forgive me for forgetting, because my goodness, what a weird year.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I do recall very vividly Steve Kerr saying, okay, we're going to tighten up his role. We're going to put some parameters around him. And the conversation that I had was, they're basically just saying, okay, here is the JaVale McGee role. Do not deviate. You're not shooting threes. You're not doing anything.
Yes.
All you do is you run the court, dunk the ball, pick up the ball if it's on the rim, and pull it out. Like, that's your job. You are now JaVale McGee, and we will expand as you earn more responsibilities, more, as you show more competency. There's certainly no role beyond the JaVale McGee role that the Warriors are going to provide James Wiseman from the get-go. As of right now, I've said this a million times, he's a 7-footer with 6 fouls. That's his only responsibility at the moment.
Yeah.
Be tall, and if you got to hack. But we need to steal 10 minutes, 5 minutes a game from you. The JaVale McGee role, the
10 to 15 minutes tops.
Oh, yeah. 15 would be stunning. But like, the tight parameters might help, because before he tore his meniscus, I did feel like, I don't know if we got over a hump or anything, but it felt like we were nearing a precipice of, he might be figuring some stuff out.
I
agree.
The way
that Jonathan Kuminga figures something out like every night, it takes Wiseman like 2 weeks.
The difference is, Dieter, they didn't have to change the offense for Kuminga to figure it out.
100%.
And that's the problem with Wiseman
but that goes to but Connor, we got to pay some bills here real quick. But that's where Dieter is correct in that they simplified the offense and basically told why. I actually wouldn't mind Wiseman shooting threes every now and again. I feel like that was the only thing he actually was fairly consistent in. His number, Stephen Curry would, but his numbers weren't horrible from the three. But whatever, that's a whole other conversation.
This isn't the time to mess around with that stuff, though.
I say blow it all for Wiseman. The bigger picture is more important.
I'm with you. When we come back, though, Connor, you wrote a great story on the future of the Warriors, and I think that's going to be a great discussion. But first, let's talk about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning like, is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? And wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. I love the at home part, by the way. I hate leaving my house, so that's a huge perk for me. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Example being the Honda Odyssey fuel pump, $353 from a chain store, just $216 from Rock Auto. And it's a family business. You have to love that. They're serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Follow Dieter Kurtenbach on Twitter at Dieter. Follow Connor Letourneau on Twitter at CON_CHRON, Con_Cron, and follow me at DogSurfRocho. Connor, you wrote a great piece for the San Francisco Chronicle detailing the future of this team, the salary cap, the upcoming free agents. Detail what you wrote in your piece, sir.
Yeah. Bottom line, obviously a lot of good energy around Andrew Wiggins making his first All-Star appearance. Huge career accomplishment. You can say he didn't deserve to start. At the end of the day, he did, and it's a huge accomplishment, and he deserves his roses, his flowers, whatever you want to say. But it did get me thinking, like, you know, as great as this moment is, it might not be the start of, a really long-term marriage with the Warriors. Just given the salary cap situation, the payroll situation the Warriors have to navigate, I'm not sure there's a world where they can keep Andrew Wiggins around long term. Bottom line, they have some really difficult decisions to make in the next 16 months. I say 16 months because we're about 16 months out from summer 2023, which is going to be maybe the most important summer Bob Myers has ever faced in his career. This upcoming summer 2022, the Warriors are going to have to re-sign Kevon Looney. They're going to do that. My understanding is that he will only warrant a little bit of a pay bump from his $5.1 million contract.
Makes sense.
Now, so you're looking around $6 million a year. They'll do that. He deserves it, more than deserves it.
Heck yeah.
They will also try to sign Jordan Poole to a multi-year contract extension because they don't want Jordan Poole to hit restricted free agency in summer 2023. He's going to get a lot of big offers from bad teams, and they don't want to have to deal with that. So,
yes. What about Gary Payton II, by the way? I mean, I really feel like he's undervalued and underrepresented in these discussions. He's an unrestricted free agent too.
Yeah, and that's a fascinating conversation, which I didn't really have the bandwidth to get into in my.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
But he's a guy, honestly, that very well might not be on the team next season, just because I don't think they can afford him. He probably warrants way more than the minimum, given where they're at outside of signing Kevon Looney and Jordan Poole. I think the rest of the guys they're going to sign have to be minimum deals. And so, that's an unfortunate situation. I don't even want to think about that because he's been so great to watch this season, but it is the reality of the situation. And so from what I've heard, the number that's been bandied about for Poole is around 4 years, $80 million. So $20 million a year. So if you think about it, they're looking at a potential, if they end up bringing back Kevon Looney, Jordan Poole, then they try to sign Andrew Wiggins to another contract. And guess what? Right. That's a max level contract because he's a better player than he was last time he signed a max contract. He's going to get another max contract. That's around $37 million a year. They already have $120 million tied up in Draymond, Steph, and Clay for 2023-24. Keep in mind the salary cap is going to be around $117 million. So that's $3 million more than the salary cap for three players. Okay. And so you bring back those three guys, you try to sign Wiggins to a max deal. You try to bring back Kevon Looney. You try to bring back Jordan Poole. You're going to end up looking at $207 million for 9 players.
Yeah.
9 players. You still have 8 more roster spots, including the 2-way contracts to fill. Okay.
Oh, and by the way, you're
just the
way
base
into the repeater
salary.
tax.
That's just the base salary, by the way. Okay.
What's the repeater tax for being that high? Is it 5 to 1? Is it?
That legitimately might be $1 billion payroll.
It's going to be at least like 700 to 800 million. Yeah. I mean,
they legitimately cannot make that kind of money.
The Warriors have the highest payroll in NBA history this season at 175 million. Okay. Yeah. So yes, we know that Joe Lacob is willing to pull out the checkbook, spend big to win big, but that's just absurd. And
they legitimately cannot make that kind of money. Like, that's not something, like, if you have an $800 million payroll, they're not bringing in $800 million a year in revenue. Full stop.
You bring up a great point, Dieter, because one thing people have brought up to me is, but Forbes values them at $5.5 billion. That's not how valuations work. That's not how money works.
That's how much
they're worth. That doesn't mean that's how much they bring in every year.
They're worth 5 times that payroll.
Yeah.
The entire franchise with the stadium is worth 5 times that payroll. By the way, the stadium cost twice that much. That's 1 year's payroll. Remember how big of a deal that stadium was?
About a third of that valuation is accounting for Chase Center.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's not necessarily the annual revenue. That's just what Chase Center represents.
Here we go. As I hope this is the latest one. You have to forgive me. I'm going fast. Oh, yeah. No, as of the last full, real, honest-to-God season that we had, Warriors brought in over $250 million in revenue. So, yeah, they're not going to be doing that.
Well, fair, but I mean,
even if they doubled, even if they were bringing in $500 million in revenue, which I don't have the X's and O's. You can't have a payroll that's $500 million. And I understand that that's not what it actually is, but you're paying into the NBA coffers 5, 6, 7x, depending on where the dollars slide in. And the dollars are already over. Every dollar you spend beyond the 3 players, including some of the dollars you spend on the 3 players, are taxed because you're over the salary. You're over the luxury tax line. It's going to be...
They have big decisions to make here. They have huge decisions because, first of all, Otto Porter Jr. is another free agent after this year.
He's gone.
I don't want him. He's suddenly become a vitally important piece of this roster. And
the reality.
Wiggins, that's the reality. Let's talk reality here.
Reality roster building, and Dieter, you know this, is all these minimum guys are interchangeable. They're going to change every year. That's just has to happen.
Yes,
but they're not always replaceable, though.
No, I'm talking about financially. They're
I know that, but you can't always just replace one Otto Porter Jr. with someone of equal stature and talent.
They don't have a choice. They have to. They use their Otto Porter Jr. card this year.
I know. So look. So the bottom line is this, man. Do you think Wiggins should go then? Because if it's either, to me, from what I'm looking at this as, it's either got to be Wiggins is gone or Draymond is probably gone, and I don't know which one is more realistic.
Or Poole and Wiseman. The one thing we haven't talked about is that 2023-24 is also going to be, they're also going to have team options on Wiseman, Kuminga, and Moody. And then
one's huge.
And the Wiseman thing is huge. And that's a really difficult thing to talk about because we don't know exactly what Wiseman is yet. He hasn't been healthy. We don't know what his long-term outlook future is. We don't even know what his trade value is, if he really has much of a trade value. So it's going to be tough. To me, the bottom line is, when you slice this from every angle, everything to me points to the fact that there's not a world where they can bring back Wiggins, just because of how enormous the contract is.
We should be clear about this, Connor, and keep their big 3 together. You can't have Wiggins and your big 3.
I really think they're going to keep the big 3 together.
I agree with you, but we might get to a juncture, because this is 16 months away from now. And I'm looking at a guy who, I'm not suggesting this is the most prudent reality, but they'd be fools not to explore it mentally. I'm looking at a guy with 2 catastrophic leg injuries, and I'm looking at a dude who's currently out because of a specific disc issue in his back.
I say Clay's untouchable. I don't think Clay's. I think Clay's untouchable. But the Draymond thing,
then comes the other aspect of what could you actually get for those guys. I also want to be very clear here. I said that the revenue was 258. It was 474 million in the last full last full season. So thank you, Forbes.
Okay,
for
that's not
updating
bad.
your
That's actually a
crap,
lot.
but
It's okay. That's a lot more.
well,
We got to
we're
be
still talking
pragmatic
about
because
payroll. That's double that.
yes,
Peter's point stands in that it's almost
afford it.
impossible.
I hear you. And look,
Cyrus, I don't know how
love
much credit card debt you're in, but I abhor such a concept.
I'm in a feces load of credit card debt. Look, my stance is always, and I hate admitting, I just admitted that. That's incredible. Who cares? Look,
Joe Lacob is not about to take out a 20% APR to
I hear you, man.
Andrew
I don't
Wiggins
sympathize with billionaires, but at the same time, when you start throwing $500 million in payroll, we got to be pragmatic here. Is there a possibility of Wiggins being a little realistic here, and they approach him and say, look, we understand you're eligible for this max contract. You're an all-star starter, but the truth is, if you walk, like his success is largely based. Yeah, then he's gone. That's how I see it.
Andrew Wiggins has brought up the words generational wealth about 3 or 4 times unprompted.
Oh, no.
0.0.
Which tells you, like, and I'm not faulting the guy at all. I really believe that players should maximize their earning potential. You only have so many years in the NBA.
Yes.
There's no Draymond Green broadcasting contract coming for Andrew Wiggins when this is all said and done.
No, there is.
He doesn't even have a lot of endorsement deals. I mean,
let me ask you this. Let me ask your opinion of this. Do you think there's another team out there that will offer Wiggins a 5-year max deal?
There's always
100%.
You think so?
Is,
wow.
They don't want him to walk in free agency for nothing. So Bob needs to start looking at needs to start scouring the trade market probably this summer. For him, it's going to be tough. But I do feel like, given how well he's played on both ends of the floor, that there is a market for him, whereas maybe 6 months ago there wasn't, just because of how enormous his contract is. So I think they can get assets back for him. I think you can get draft picks. I think you can get a good young guy or two. I think you can make that happen. And I think I think that's probably what's going to end up happening.
Agreed.
And the good thing, the silver lining of this, right, is that the timing of this kind of aligns with when I think Jonathan Kuminga is going to be knocking on the door of, dude, I am the dude. I need to be starting. I need to be playing 30-plus minutes a night. Next season, maybe he's not there yet, but by 2023, 24, he will probably be there. And the timing kind of works out well of, we're going to miss you, Wiseman, but Kuminga's the dude, and he's ready to be the dude. And so there's that. And it's kind of, in that way, a huge, enormous silver lining. I think we're all very excited about Kuminga on this podcast, as we should be. His ceiling is non-existent. There is no ceiling.
Well, let me ask you a total hypothetical question. Would you trade Kuminga for anyone in the NBA right now? And if yes, who?
I would not. You don't let
Luka Doncic. You wouldn't
walk. I mean, he's
not
19
Luka Doncic.
years old. He's a potential perennial all-star. He's on a rookie deal. Like, he's almost untradeable in my mind.
So Luka Doncic is a no.
I mean, I said almost untradeable.
Like, okay. Like, that's the only name I can think of off the top of my head.
If they want to trade Giannis in some crazy deal for
Giannis is another one. Yes, Giannis is
it's not going to happen.
I guess who's the worst player that you would trade for Jonathan Kuminga is a better question.
I wouldn't trade Jonathan Kuminga for someone like a Bradley Beal, even. Like,
heck,
what about a Pascal Siakam?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
No. If you asked me in the offseason, I would have considered it. Not now.
What about you, Peter?
Well, there's another aspect that we have just talked about that needs to be factored into this, which is that Jonathan Kuminga. I spent the entire fall talking about this. Hell, the entire year it seemed like talking about this. One of the most valuable things in the NFL, if not the most valuable thing in the NFL, is a rookie on a rookie scale, or a quarterback on a rookie scale contract. And the Warriors have to think a lot about return on contract value. And you're trading for any established player, they make an established amount of money, and it's probably a max. I don't think that there's a non-max player that you can make a trade for Jonathan Kuminga. Like, I just don't. I don't think that guy exists.
Which is why the Kings Halliburton trade was so absurd, because he's on a rookie deal still. But Kuminga's ceiling is obviously much higher than Halliburton's too. So
I mean, I love Halliburton. That was a name that was bandied in my head, where I'm like, if it was Halliburton and Brogdon, would I do it?
Oh my god!
Listen, I Connor's point stands above all, which is enjoy this team now, because this upcoming offseason, it might not happen, but they're going to have very serious conversations about how to structure this team, not for next season, which is going to be a challenge in and of itself because of all the minimum contracts and such, but the season beyond and the financial repercussions that are coming down the pipeline for carrying what is in effect 4 max players for the last couple of years.
And I've heard some feedback from the people within the organization the past couple of days of they weren't like upset about that article, but they were like, there was some mild annoyance of like,
why are you bringing up this thing that is definitely going to happen today?
Yeah, because I don't think it had been actively talked about before. Or
no, it hasn't. No, it hasn't.
It hadn't.
And they were like,
that's why I texted you saying I was jealous.
Dude, he just made his first All-Star game. Like, we have to talk about this right now. And I'm like, I understand that, but at the same time, it's relevant, and I needed something to write that day.
Also, are you familiar with SEO over there? Yes, it is relevant today.
It may or may not have been my most read story this season.
I believe it is.
Search engine optimization for you folks who aren't familiar. That is and gentlemen, this was a great show, great discussion. Dieter and I'll be back tomorrow. Connor, you're obviously going to be coming back soon. I don't know if you folks have seen the TV show, The Righteous Gemstones. But yes. Connor Letourneau, you got the youngest brother's hairdo and hat thing going perfectly right now. I love it, dude. No, that's a compliment.
That's a compliment. The Adam Devine God Squad.
Yeah, the Adam Devine. Dude, I love it, man. Follow Dieter on Twitter @Dieter. Follow Connor Letourneau on Twitter @Con_Cron and me @Doxer for a show. And this program, which got blown up thanks to Dieter's prognostication, Locked on Dubs is the Twitter handle there. It was a loose, and I'm interpreting what everyone else is saying. I'm just going with the narrative.
How is it that you could be so certain about it on a podcast, and then when I'm right here, it's just less and less and less? I said March 1. It's fine. It was just a weird day.
March 1st. No, actually, maybe even sooner.
It was just a weird day because I'm like, I don't recall saying that on a podcast. And then I realized I did say it on a podcast, but the podcast didn't get published.
Yeah, it's funny because I listened to every episode and Cyrus alluded to it a couple times and he got more and more comfortable. Then he finally
wait a second. No. That's wait. I'm just being aware of this now. Wait, I'm just being made aware of this now. That was the show that you said it?
I didn't say it. I never
said March 1st.
To you.
You were talking to me. You said March 1st. I never said March 1st, though. Why would I say that?
You said March 1st. Dude, I listened to it 5 minutes before we started this.
I said March 1st?
Yeah. I said March 1st. Yeah. I said March 1st to you. You repeated what I said.
Yes.
It was just weird that we were going through an emissary. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But that was the show that got butchered. So it never actually aired?
It's hard to remember what happened in the butchered show, Cyrus, because it was butchered.
Yes.
Connor, thank you for joining us.
No, I got confused there, man. So we never actually published the show where you allegedly said March 1st is when Wiseman is coming back.
No.
Gotcha.
So it was really weird. It was really weird when I was getting a bunch of people texting me about it. Because I'm like, what the hell's going on?
I get it now. Yeah, man. I got a new computer, by the way, so that will never happen again, I hope.
I love this.
Again, thank you for coming on, Cyrus. And Connor. I'm going to go now.
All right,
bye, folks.
That was good stuff.
Later.
See ya.